Hey everyone, it's me, sharing a story that's been bottled up inside for way too long. If you're over 40 and love those raw, real life tales like the ones on Reddit, buckle up. This one's about hitting rock bottom and clawing your way up in ways you never imagined. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and drop a comment below. What's the toughest choice you've ever made when life backed you into a corner? Your stories keep this community alive. Now, let's get into it. This is part one of five, and trust me, the twists in part two will leave you wondering how far someone can go when desperation calls. I was 25 when everything fell apart. Picture this, a girl from a small town in the Midwest, raised by parents who worked their fingers to the bone just to keep food on the table. Dad was a mechanic, always covered in grease, teaching me how to fix a carburetor before I could even drive. Mom was a school teacher, the kind who stayed late to help kids who reminded her of me. Curious, a bit rebellious, but full of dreams. They weren't perfect, but they were my world. Then, in the span of 6 months, cancer took Mom, and a heart attack claimed Dad. No warning, no time to say goodbye properly. Suddenly, I was alone in our old house, staring at bills piling up like autumn leaves. Grief hit me like a freight train. I couldn't focus, couldn't sleep. The house felt haunted by their absence. Dad's tools gathering dust in the garage, Mom's recipe books untouched on the shelf. I had no siblings, no extended family to lean on. Friends? They drifted away, uncomfortable with my pain. I tried to hold down jobs, waitressing at a diner, stocking shelves at a grocery store, but the sadness made me unreliable. I'd show up late or zone out during shifts. Employers noticed, and soon I was out on the street again. That's when desperation led to my biggest mistake. One night, hungry and broke, I slipped into a convenience store and pocketed some canned goods and a loaf of bread. Stupid, I know. The security camera caught me, and before I knew it, I was in handcuffs. Petty theft, they called it. First offense, but it stuck to me like glue. I got probation, community service, and a criminal record that screamed untrustworthy to every potential boss. Job applications? Forget it. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? That box was my undoing. Interviews dried up. I applied everywhere, retail, offices, even factories, but the background check always came back to bite me. Days turned into weeks of scraping by. I sold what I could from the house. Dad's old watch, Mom's jewelry. Pawn shops gave me pennies on the dollar, but it bought ramen and kept the lights on for a bit. I couch-surfed with acquaintances who pitied me, but pity has an expiration date. Eventually, I ended up in a rundown apartment on the edge of town, sharing it with strangers who came and went. The place smelled of stale smoke and regret. My dreams? Buried under survival mode. As a kid, I'd fantasized about Hollywood, starring in movies, walking red carpets. I'd act out scenes from old films in my room, pretending to be the heroine who overcomes it all. But reality laughed at that. One rainy afternoon, scrolling classifieds on a borrowed laptop at the library, I spotted an ad that sparked a flicker of hope. Extras needed for upcoming film production. No experience required. Good pay for flexible hours. It was vague, but the word film jumped out. My heart raced. This could be it, a foot in the door to acting. I imagined crowd scenes, maybe a line or two, anything to escape the grind. The address was in the city, a couple hours away by bus. I scraped together fare from odd jobs, walking dogs, cleaning yards, and headed out resume in hand, though it was thin as paper. The bus ride felt eternal. Rain pelted the windows as I rehearsed my pitch in my head. I'm enthusiastic, quick learner, passionate about storytelling. I arrived at a nondescript building in an industrial area. Nothing glamorous, but hey, low-budget films start somewhere. The lobby buzzed with people, mostly women in their 20s, all shapes and sizes. Some looked confident, chatting like old friends. Others fidgeted nervously, like me. We filled out forms: name, age, measurements, availability. Measurements? Odd for extras, but I shrugged it off. My turn came. I entered a small room with a desk, a camera on a tripod, and a man in his 40s, let's call him Mike, sitting behind it. He had that slick producer vibe, gelled hair, casual button-up. "So, what's your story?" he asked, scanning my form. I poured it out. The losses, the struggles, my dream of acting. He nodded sympathetically. Tough breaks. This gig could change that. Pays well, up to $1,000 a day for the right fit. $1,000? My eyes widened. That was life-changing money. Rent, food, maybe even savings. What's the film about? I asked, eager. He leaned back, smiling. It's adult-oriented entertainment. Real stories, real emotions. We need fresh faces who can connect authentically. Adult-oriented. My stomach dropped. I wasn't naive. I knew what that meant. Not mainstream movies, but the kind that played late at night or online. Shock froze me. This wasn't what I signed up for. Faces of the other girls flashed in my mind. Were they all here for this? I stood up, mumbling excuses. I think there's a mistake. I can't. Mike held up a hand. Whoa, easy, kid. Sit down. Let's talk. His voice was calm, almost fatherly. Fear's just in your head, kid. Everyone's nervous at first. But think about it. Quick work, big bucks, and it's all professional. No one's forcing you. But if you walk out, what then? Back to square one? He was right. The alternative loomed large. Eviction notices, empty fridge. I hesitated, heart pounding. This wasn't the dream, but dreams don't pay bills. Okay, I whispered. What do I have to do? He explained the process. A simple audition tape, nothing extreme, just show personality, comfort level. The camera rolled. I answered questions, hobbies, background. It felt surreal, like an out-of-body experience. Then the door opened. In walked a tall, muscular guy, dark-skinned, imposing presence, my scene partner for the test. Panic surged again. He smiled kindly, but I trembled. This was real. Could I go through with it? What happened next pushed me to my limits, but it opened doors I never expected. Stay tuned for part 2, where the real test begins and decisions get made that change everything. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. All right, let's pick up right where we left off. The audition room, the camera rolling, and me realizing I was way deeper in than I ever planned. I stood there, frozen, staring at the door where this tall, built guy had just walked in. Let's call him Jay. He was professional, introduced himself with a warm smile and a handshake, but my mind was racing 1,000,000 miles an hour. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. Mike, the guy running the casting, explained it all calmly. This was just a test scene to see if I had natural chemistry on camera, if I could relax and follow direction. Nothing too complicated, he said. Quick, discreet, and the pay would be deposited the same week. My heart hammered so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Part of me screamed to bolt, grab my bag, and run back to the bus stop, back to my empty apartment and endless job rejections. But the other part, the one that was tired of being hungry, tired of selling off pieces of my parents' memories just to eat, that part whispered, stay. This could fix everything. $1,000 for one day? That was more than I'd made in months combined. It could cover rent, buy groceries, maybe even let me breathe for the first time since losing mom and dad. I took a deep breath and nodded. Jay sensed my nerves right away. He was gentle, kept checking in, making sure I was okay with every step. Mike gave simple directions, mostly about positioning and reacting naturally. The camera stayed on, lights bright, but everyone acted like this was just another Tuesday. I tried to focus on the money, on the future, anything but the moment. It wasn't romantic or exciting. It was awkward, mechanical, and over faster than I expected. When Mike finally said cut, I felt a strange mix of relief and numbness. They let me get dressed in private, then Mike sat me down. You did great for a first-timer, he said. Natural look, good energy. We've got a shoot lined up next week. 3 scenes, $3,000 total. Interested? $3,000. My brain couldn't process it. That was rent for half a year, a used car, maybe even classes to get real skills. I heard myself say yes before I could overthink it. Walking out of that building, the rain had stopped. The air felt cleaner, but I didn't. I sat on the bus ride home, staring out the window, replaying everything. Shame crept in hard. What would mom and dad think? What would anyone think? But then I'd remember the eviction notice taped to my door, the empty pantry, the way job interviewers looked at me when the background check came back. Survival isn't pretty. Sometimes it's just choosing the least bad option. That first paycheck hit my account 4 days later. I cried in the bank parking lot holding the deposit slip. For the first time in years, I bought real food, fresh vegetables, meat, things I'd forgotten tasted like. I paid it overdue bills, got the electricity turned back on without restrictions. It felt like oxygen after drowning. The next shoot was bigger, a full set with lights, makeup artists, multiple cameras. The other performers were surprisingly normal. College students paying tuition, single moms covering daycare, people from all walks who'd found this strange side door to financial stability. No one glamorized it. We swapped stories during breaks about regular jobs we'd tried and failed at. One girl had a nursing degree but couldn't pass the licensing exam after 3 tries. Another was saving for her kid's surgery. It humanized everything, made me feel less alone. I learned the routines quickly, how to hit marks, follow the director's cues, protect my boundaries even in a boundary-pushing industry. I was good at it too. Directors liked my Midwestern innocence, the way I could look vulnerable yet strong. Bookings rolled in. Weekends turned into full weeks. Money piled up faster than I could spend it responsibly. I moved out of that awful apartment into a small but clean studio downtown. Bought a reliable car, started putting money aside, dreaming of a day when I wouldn't need this anymore. But it took a toll. Nights I'd lie awake wondering who I was becoming. Friends from my old life, gone. They'd never understand. Dating? Impossible. I built walls higher than ever. The contrast was brutal. Days on set, surrounded by people, nights completely alone. Money solved survival problems, but created new ones. Guilt, isolation, fear of being recognized. Still, I kept going, scene after scene, city after city. The industry rewarded reliability, and I became known as someone who showed up prepared and professional. Agents reached out. Pay rates climbed. At my peak, I was clearing 5 figures a month, numbers that would have blown my parents' minds. I invested some, paid off old debts, even anonymously donated to the cancer foundation that helped Mom in her final days. Looking back, those years were a blur of hotel rooms, fake names, and compartmentalizing emotions like a pro. I told myself it was temporary, a bridge to something better. And in many ways it was. But bridges can be long and shaky. Part 3 is where things start shifting. I hit my breaking point and begin plotting my exit. The money was great, but the cost to my soul was adding up fast. Stick around, because the turnaround is coming. Like this video if you're rooting for second chances, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, let's dive in. Things are about to get heavier. By the time I hit my 3rd year in the industry, the money was better than I ever dreamed. I had a nice apartment in a good part of the city, a savings account with actual commas in the balance, and I'd even started taking online classes in digital marketing and content creation. On paper, I'd made it. I'd gone from sleeping on friends' couches and stealing bread to paying my bills months in advance. But inside, I was hollowing out. The schedule was relentless. Shoots 3, 4, sometimes 5 days a week. Travel to different cities, different sets, new faces every time, same routine. I got really good at switching off emotionally. Smile for the camera, follow directions, collect the check, go home. I told myself it was just a job like any other high-paying but demanding career. Actors in mainstream movies do love scenes, right? This was just more explicit, but deep down, I knew it wasn't the same. The hardest part was the secrecy. I couldn't tell anyone what I really did. Old friends from back home thought I'd landed some modeling gigs and social media influencing. I let them believe that. My extended family, I barely spoke to them anymore. When holidays came around, I'd send gifts with no return address and make excuses about being too busy to visit. The shame was a constant weight. I'd see families at the grocery store, moms with kids, grandparents laughing, and wonder if I'd ever have anything normal like that. Dating was out of the question. How do you explain your job on a second date? Most guys I met through work were in the industry too, and those connections never felt real. They were just two people pretending everything was fine. Then there were the bad days on set, the directors who pushed boundaries, the scenes that left me feeling used up instead of just tired. I learned to speak up more, to say no when something felt wrong, but even then, there was pressure. This is what pays the big money, they'd say. Everyone else is doing it. And the truth? Most days, everyone else was. We all had our reasons debts, kids, dreams we were funding. But some days, I'd lock myself in the bathroom trailer and just cry silently so no one would hear. The breaking point came during a week-long shoot in Vegas. Big production, multiple performers, long hours under hot lights. One night after wrapping, I went back to my hotel room alone, ordered room service, and sat on the balcony staring at the strip. All those lights, all that noise, and I felt completely invisible. I opened my phone and scrolled through old photos, me with mom and dad at my high school graduation, all of us smiling like the future was wide open. I hadn't looked at those pictures in years because they hurt too much. That night, I couldn't stop. The tears came hard and wouldn't quit. I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was disappearing. The next morning, I called my agent and said I needed a break. She was understanding. Burnout happens to everyone, she said. Take a month, recharge. But a month turned into 3. I didn't book anything. Instead, I started therapy for the first time. Found a counselor who specialized in trauma and unconventional careers. She didn't judge. She just listened as I unloaded years of grief, guilt, and fear. For the first time, someone knew the full truth and didn't walk away. During those months off, I leaned into the online classes I'd been taking. I'd always been good at talking to the camera. Even in my old work, directors said I had a natural warmth, so I started experimenting. I made a private YouTube channel at first, just for me. Videos about grief, about starting over after loss, about making hard choices when life doesn't give you good ones. I didn't show my face, used a voice filter, kept it anonymous, but people found them. The comments were kind. This helped me today. I'm going through something similar. Thank you for being honest. Slowly, an idea formed. What if I could turn this into something real? Not the old work, but something that used my story to help others. I started saving screenshots of those comments, printing them out, and sticking them on my wall. They became my new motivation. When my agent called with a big offer, 6 figures for a short series, I turned it down. It shocked her. It shocked me. But saying no felt like taking my life back. I told her I was stepping away for good. She wished me luck, said the door would always be open if I changed my mind. I knew I wouldn't. I spent the next few months planning my exit carefully. I had enough saved to live comfortably for a couple years if I was smart. I took courses in video editing, branding, social media growth. I built a new online presence from scratch. No connection to my past work. New name for the channel, new look, new message. Real talk about hard times, resilience, and second chances. The first public video I posted without hiding my face was terrifying. I titled it, How I Survived Losing Everything at 25. I didn't mention the industry by name, just said I'd taken a dark, difficult path to survive when I had no other options. I talked about grief, desperation, shame, and finally choosing myself. I hit upload and immediately regretted it. What if someone recognized me? What if old videos surfaced? What if people judged? But the response wasn't hate, it was connection. Thousands of views in days, messages pouring in from women and men who'd faced impossible choices, people who'd done things they weren't proud of to feed their kids, to escape abuse, to just make it one more month. For the first time, sharing my truth didn't make me feel smaller, it made me feel seen. That's when the channel started growing, really growing. Part 4 is where everything changes again. I go from hiding to building something meaningful and face the biggest risk of all, telling the full truth. Stay with me because the best part is coming. Like if you believe in redemption stories, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in the next one. After I made the decision to walk away from the industry for good, everything felt uncertain.
I had money saved, more than most people my age could dream of, but I also had this huge gap in my resume and a past I couldn't erase. For the first time in years, I had no schedule, no bookings, no script to follow. Just me, my apartment, and a blank future. Some days that freedom felt amazing. Other days it terrified me. What if the channel didn't work? What if I ran out of savings and had to go back? But I pushed forward. I poured everything into building the online presence. I studied successful creators, how they edited, how they talked to the camera, how they built trust with their audience. I posted consistently, twice a week at first, then 3 times. Videos about overcoming loss, rebuilding confidence, making peace with hard choices. I never named the industry directly, but I hinted at it, talking about a chapter of my life I'm not proud of and surviving in ways I never thought I would. People read between the lines. The comments showed me they understood. Growth was slow at first, a few hundred views, then 1,000, but something magical happened. The algorithm started picking me up. One video went viral, the day I chose myself over money. In it, I talked about turning down a huge paycheck because it was costing me my peace. Millions watched. Messages flooded in. Women sharing their own survival stories, escaping bad relationships, overcoming addiction, starting over after prison. Men, too, talking about pride and hitting rock bottom. I read every comment I could. It felt like I was finally using my pain for something good. Sponsors started reaching out. At first, small ones, tea brands, journals, self-care apps. I was careful, only partnered with things I actually believed in. The income wasn't huge yet, but it was clean, money that didn't make me feel dirty. I hired an editor to help with thumbnails and cuts, then a manager to handle emails. The channel became a real business. But the biggest risk was still ahead, going fully public with the truth. Old content from my past was still out there, buried on obscure sites. I knew one day someone would connect the dots. My manager warned me, once it's out, you can't control it. People might turn on me, brands might drop me. But hiding forever felt worse. I didn't want to build this new life on half-truths. So I made the video. I called it My Full Story, From Rock Bottom to Here. I sat in my living room, no fancy lighting, just me and the camera. I told everything, losing my parents, the theft charge, the desperation, stumbling into that audition, years in the adult industry, and finally walking away. I didn't go into graphic details, just the emotional truth, the shame, the money that saved me, the toll it took, and why I left. I talked about therapy, about forgiveness, mostly forgiving myself. I ended by saying I don't recommend that path to anyone. It worked for me in a moment of crisis, but there are always other ways if you keep looking. I scheduled the upload for a Tuesday morning and barely slept the night before. When I hit publish, my hands shook. The first hour was quiet. Then views started climbing, fast. By evening, it was everywhere. Forums, social media, even news sites picking it up. Some headlines were kind. Inspirational creator shares raw redemption story. Others were brutal, digging up old clips, calling me names I won't repeat. Hate comments rolled in. People saying I was glorifying bad choices, that I didn't deserve a platform. It hurt, badly. I turned off notifications and cried for a day. But then I checked again. The positive outweighed the negative by miles. Thousands of messages from people saying I'd given them courage to face their own pasts. Parents thanking me for being honest with their teens about hard choices. Former industry workers reaching out privately, saying I'd voiced what they'd felt for years. Major brands didn't drop me. In fact, more reached out, wanting to support authenticity. The channel exploded after that, from 50,000 subscribers to 500,000 in months. I started getting invited to podcasts, not to sensationalize my past, but to talk about resilience and mental health. I wrote a book outline. Speaking gigs followed, women's conferences, college events about career pivots and self-worth. Money flowed differently now. Courses, merchandise, bigger sponsorships. But the best part, I could look in the mirror without flinching. I bought a small house back near my hometown, not the old one, full of ghosts, but a fresh start. Planted a garden like Mom used to have, made friends who knew the real me and stayed anyway. And slowly I started dating again. Nothing serious at first, just coffee with kind people who saw the whole picture and didn't judge. It felt foreign being vulnerable in a good way. Part 5, the final chapter, is coming next. It's about where I am today, the lessons that stuck, and the one thing I wish I'd known at 25. This story isn't over, but the hardest parts are behind me. Thank you for being here with me through it all. Like this video if you've ever rooted for someone's comeback, and I'll see you in the last part.
Hey everyone, this is part 5, the final chapter of my story. If you've made it this far, thank you. Truly. Sharing this has been one of the scariest and most healing things. This one will hit harder with the full context. Before we wrap up, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button if my journey has meant something to you, and leave a comment telling me one lesson life has taught you the hard way. Your words have carried me through this. Now, let's close this out. Today, I'm 35. 10 years have passed since that rainy day I walked into the wrong audition. Looking back, it's hard to believe that scared, broken 25-year-old was me. Life now is quieter, steadier, and more mine than I ever thought possible. The channel has grown beyond anything I imagined. Millions of subscribers, a team that helps me create content full-time, and a community that feels like family. We talk about everything: mental health, financial recovery, setting boundaries, rebuilding after bad choices. I still share stories from my past when it serves the message, but it's no longer the center of my identity. It's just one chapter, the one that taught me the most. I wrote that book I outlined years ago. It's called No Good Options, about surviving when life doesn't give you clean paths. It hit bestseller lists, not because it's sensational, but because so many people relate to doing things they're not proud of just to keep going. I've done speaking tours, sat on panels about resilience and women's issues, even advised nonprofits that help people exiting tough industries or rebuilding after incarceration. Financially, I'm secure. The savings from those difficult years, plus income from the channel, books, courses, and smart investments, mean I don't worry about bills anymore. But money isn't the win. The real win is peace. Waking up without dread, looking forward to my day instead of just enduring it. I got married 2 years ago to a man who knows every part of my story and loves me anyway. We met at a conference where I was speaking. He's a therapist who works with trauma survivors. He never saw me as damaged goods. We have a little girl now, just turned 1. Holding her for the first time, I promised her, and myself, that she'd grow up knowing her worth from day 1. That no matter what life throws, there are always people and resources to help find another way. I went back home last year, bought the old house my parents raised me in, the one I'd avoided for so long, renovated it slowly, room by room, kept Dad's toolbox in the garage, Mom's recipes in the kitchen, turned it into a place of healing instead of ghosts. I host small gatherings there now. Friends, some subscribers who've become real-life connections, people who've walked similar roads. The criminal record? I got it expunged after years of clean living and community work. A fresh start on paper to match the one in my heart. If I could go back and talk to that 25-year-old me crying in her run-down apartment, I'd tell her a few things. First, you're stronger than you know. The fact that you're still trying, still dreaming, even in the darkest moment, that's everything. Second, no choice is forever. Even the hardest ones can be stepping stones if you decide to learn from them and move forward. Third, ask for help sooner. There are more resources than you think: food banks, crisis lines, job programs for people with records, counseling. I didn't know about most of them back then. Pride kept me isolated longer than necessary. And finally, you are not what you've done to survive. You are what you choose next. I don't regret the path entirely. It saved my life when nothing else could. It taught me empathy I wouldn't have otherwise, but I would never recommend it. There are always other doors, even when they feel hidden. Keep knocking, keep looking. Someone will open one. To everyone watching who's in their own rock bottom right now, hold on. The story isn't over. Your comeback might take years, but it's possible. I've lived it. Thank you for letting me share mine with you. This channel will keep going. More stories, more real talk, more hope. But this particular chapter, it's closed. If this series touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear they're not alone. And remember, no matter what you've been through, your future can still be beautiful. See you in the next video. Take care of yourselves out there.